The film opens at a remote U.S. military base. We are introduced to Kinney, a young, relatively inexperienced Air Force JTAC. He is assigned to a Tier 1 Delta Force team led by the seasoned Sugar, alongside Abel and Bishop. The team's mission is high stakes. They are to infiltrate the Sulu archipelago in the Philippines to rescue a CIA asset who has been captured by the extremist group Abu Sayyaf. The dynamic is immediately established. Kinney is the nerd of the group, a technician among warriors. While the Delta operators joke about cereal and snacks, the underlying tension of the land of bad, the unhostile jungle, looms over them. The narrative jumps halfway across the world to Creech Air Force Base in Nevada. We meet Captain Eddie Reaper Grimm, a veteran drone pilot who is cynical, coffee-obsessed, and fiercely protective of the men he watches over. Reaper and his younger partner, Staff Sergeant Nia Branson, are the eyes in the sky for the mission. Reaper is a man who has spent too many years watching people die through a thermal camera. He is frustrated by the military bureaucracy and the lack of focus from his superiors, who are more interested in a college basketball game than the active combat zone. Reaper establishes a direct comms link with Kinney, becoming his primary lifeline. The Delta team is dropped into the dense, humid jungle under the cover of darkness. The cinematography emphasizes the claustrophobia of the environment. Kinney is tasked with managing the laser designators and maintaining a constant connection with Reaper's MQ-9 Reaper drone. As they navigate toward the target compound, the team moves with lethal, silent precision. They reach a ridge overlooking a hidden terrorist facility. Using high-tech thermal optics and Reaper's overhead feed, they identify the CIA asset. However, they also see something unexpected. A high-value terrorist leader is present, and a brutal execution is being prepared. The mission is compromised before it can even begin. A group of terrorists discovers the team's extraction point, and a heavy firefight breaks out. The silence of the jungle is shattered by the roar of suppressed and unsuppressed gunfire. Sugar and his team attempt to push toward the asset, but they are vastly outnumbered. Kinney is forced into a baptism of fire, holding a rifle in one hand and his comms radio in the other. He coordinates with Reaper to call in the first of several airstrikes. Reaper, watching the chaos from a screen in Vegas, guides a Hellfire missile into a cluster of enemy technicals, providing a momentary window for the team to move. The situation turns catastrophic. As the team reaches the extraction zone, they are pinned down by heavy machine gun fire and RPGs. In the heat of the battle, the Delta operators are separated. Kinney watches in horror as his teammates are seemingly overwhelmed by a wave of Abu Sayyaf fighters. Abel is wounded, and Sugar stays behind to provide cover. Kinney, the least experienced soldier on the field, is pushed into the brush by the blast of an explosion. He finds himself alone, separated from his team, with dozens of armed insurgents closing in. The first half concludes with Kinney hiding in the tall grass, his heart racing. He is the only one left with a functioning radio. Through his earpiece, he hears Reaper's calm, steadying voice. "I've still got you, kid. I'm not going anywhere." Reaper realizes that the official rescue mission is being delayed by red tape at the base, and he begins to take matters into his own hands, staying past his shift to guide Kinney through the land of bad. Kinney realizes that to survive, he must stop being just a technician and start being a soldier. He readies his weapon and prepares for a long, bloody night of evasion. Kinney, deep in the land of bad, alone and surrounded. He is no longer the tech guy, he is a fugitive. Following Reaper's calm, low-frequency instructions, Kinney navigates through the treacherous terrain, avoiding thermal patrols and insurgent search parties. Reaper tells him to be the rabbit, to stay low, move only when necessary, and use the terrain to mask his signature. The bond between the two men deepens through the comms. Reaper shares stories of his own past to keep Kinney awake and focused, while back in Vegas, Reaper is fighting a literal war of bureaucracy. He refuses to leave his seat, even as his shift ends, and his superiors demand he hand over control to a less invested pilot. Kinney reaches a vantage point overlooking a secondary insurgent base near a massive hydroelectric dam. Through his binoculars, and with Reaper's high-resolution drone feed, he makes a heartbreaking discovery. Sugar and Abel are alive, but they are being brutally tortured for information. Kinney is faced with a choice: proceed to the original extraction point and save himself, or attempt a suicidal rescue mission. Encouraged by Reaper's promise of total overwatch, Kinney decides to go back in. This marks his full transformation into a combat operator. He begins painting targets with his laser designator, preparing to bring the hammer of God down on the compound. The tension in Nevada mirrors the violence in the Philippines. Reaper realizes that the base's phone lines are down, and his superiors are distracted by a March Madness basketball game, ignoring the life-and-death struggle on his screen. In a moment of righteous fury, Reaper leaves his station to confront the base commander in the break room. He literally pulls the plug on the television, screaming at his fellow officers that they have men dying in the mud while they watch a game. This sequence highlights the jarring disconnect between the sterile comfort of a U.S. airbase and the visceral horror of the battlefield. Reaper returns to his desk, now a rogue element within his own command, determined to see Kinney through to the end. Kinney infiltrates the compound under the cover of a massive airstrike coordinated by Reaper. The dam sequence is a symphony of fire and steel. As Kinney moves through the facility, Reaper guides Hellfire missiles with pinpoint accuracy, vaporizing guard towers and technicals mere yards from Kinney's position. Kinney finds his teammates in a dark, blood-stained cell. The rescue is messy and violent. Sugar is badly wounded, and they have to fight their way out through a maze of concrete corridors. The drone's perspective is used to show the scale of the carnage, tiny heat signatures blinking out as Reaper clears a path for the survivors. The survivors reach the top of the hydroelectric dam, trapped between a sheer drop and an approaching army of insurgents. A rescue helicopter is inbound, but it's minutes away. Kinney, Sugar, and the others make a final stand at the edge of the abyss. In the climax, the insurgents swarm the dam. Kinney's ammunition runs dry. Just as a terrorist leader is about to execute them, Reaper authorizes a final risky strike. He fires the drone's last remaining missile directly into the base of the dam's structure. The resulting explosion creates a wall of fire and falling debris that shields the team just as the extract bird arrives. The film ends with Kinney and his surviving teammates safely on a carrier deck. Kinney is exhausted, covered in the mud of the land of bad, but alive. Back in Las Vegas, Reaper finally stands up from his desk. He is physically and emotionally spent. He walks out of the dark control room into the blinding Nevada sunlight. He goes to a local grocery store, wandering the aisles in a daze, overwhelmed by the mundane peacefulness of a world that has no idea what just happened 12,000 miles away. He calls his wife, simply needing to hear a human voice. The final shot is a silent acknowledgement of the ghosts who fight wars from the shadows and the soldiers who survive because someone refused to look away.